Refuse to be a liability. God bless you. You are welcome to Evangelist Imakalo TV, Treasury of Excellent Knowledge. As you know, I am your serviceable servant, Evangelist Imakalo. I want to speak on this topic. Refuse to be a liability. A liability is something that take money, take resources, take energy. That is things that consume, that take from other things, or from people, or from as a personal property. Personal property can be a liability. Human beings can be liabilities. Liability, as I am defining, is someone or something that takes from others to feel satisfied, to nourish, or to build, or to live well, and never contributes to refilling or to building the source or the means by which it or he or she takes. Liabilities are parasitical. A liability is a parasite. A parasite is just like bedbug, mosquito, or some other insects that engage with people or animals or any living being to suck out blood from them so that the parasite will live well without contributing to the development of the person or the animal or whatever from where they are sucking the blood. So liabilities is forbidden in the church. Many Christians will not be happy to hear what I'm saying. I'm a Christian. I'm talking even to myself. We are not supposed to be liabilities to each other. We are not supposed to be liabilities to our fellow Christians. We are not supposed to be liabilities to the world. The world also is not supposed to be a liability to us. We should not have the mindset of taking and taking from others without planning on how to contribute to building them. Liabilities never think of being independent. Liabilities always want to depend on others. The liabilities live a life of dependency. They always put their hope on the effort of others, on the resources of others, on the money belonging to others, food belonging to others, hospitality belonging to others. They always strategize on how to live by taking from others. These are the liabilities. And this message is telling us that we should refuse to be liabilities. And those who are already liabilities should change from continuing to be liabilities. I want to read the text. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. I will be reading it from verse 6. Then I will read it to verse 12. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 6 to 12. Reading from Amplified Bible. Now we command you, believers, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ and by his authority, that you withdraw and keep away from every brother or sister who leads an undisciplined life and does not live in accordance with the tradition and teaching that you have received from us. Then the doctrine being received by the apostles, being instituted by Jesus Christ. This is Apostle Paul speaking, and something happened. It's a matter arising from the church of Thessalonica. Then he was addressing the matter. Continuing from verse 7, he said, "For you yourself know how you ought to follow our example," how they should follow their examples. the apostolic example, the example of Jesus Christ. Because we did not act in an undisciplined and inappropriate manner when we were with you. We were never idle or lazy, nor did we avoid our duties. Mark that word. The apostles were never idle or were they lazy, nor were they neglect their duty. Both their missionary duty and their personal engagement from which they earn money, they did the two combined. They never neglected their own duty, and they never were idle, they never were lazy. So it is a misconception for people to believe that Christianity encourages idleness, laziness, and the negligence of proper duty. It is a lie. I am reading from the belief system of Christianity. So most Christians are mentally colonized to the extent that they negate industriousness, they negate the law of diligence, they negate to work, they negate their proper duties. Even some of us, or even the majority of us, neglect our missionary duties. All of us are called, but only few really respond and are working faithfully. Every human being is called. So that apart, I'm not talking about our calling, I'm talking about the refusal to be a liability. Verse 8. Nor did we eat anyone's bread without paying for it. This is Apostle Paul speaking on behalf of the apostolic team. But with labor and hardship, we worked night and day to pay our own way, so that we will not be a financial burden on any of you for our support, so that we will not be a financial liability to any of the church members to support them. Do you see the example we are to follow? Verse 9. Not because we do not have a right to such support. As ministers, they have the right to demand for support. They have the right, based on their high calling, based on the excellent duty they are performing to building the people. It is their divine entitlement. However, let me start anew from that verse 9. Not because we do not have a right to such support, but we provided our own financial support to offer ourselves as a model for you, so that you will follow our example. The reason they decided not to depend on the members to finance their ministry, to finance their feeding, it is true that they are entitled to it, but because they never wanted to be liabilities to the members. And so that the members will not have their demand for support as an excuse to not following their example. So they wanted to lay the foundation, or to set the pace of perfect exemplification in the running of ministry without living the life of dependency, even when they are entitled to it. That means if anybody will give to them, it should be from the person's willingness. They never made it as their right. They never exercised the right of every time coming up to tell the members, you know we should need this, you know we should do that, you know we are your ministers, you know our family should be fed, you know our children's school fees should be paid, you know all this, you know that. You know that we have come to the level of not continuing to walk by foot. The church is supposed to buy us beautiful cars, luxurious cars, buy us private jets, all this and that. build houses for us. He said they have the right to be demanding all of this one after the other, but they decided not to demand so that they will not make themselves liabilities to the church. What a good example. What a good exhortation. And we are going to see more reason why this exhortation. It is not that they just woke up one day and began to tell the people all of these things. Something prompted it. Because, first of all, because they heard that there were brothers and sisters in the church who live undisciplined life. And these are the brothers and sisters who choose to be liabilities to other members. Let me read further. From verse 10. For even while we were with you, we used to give you this order. If anyone is not willing to work, then he is not to eat either. Anybody, any brother, any sister, any adult in the church who is not willing to work, what it means for not being willing to work is that when the person is in good health, when the person has the energy, when the person has the opportunity, the privilege to work, whether by a menial work, menial labor work, whether it is skilled work, whether any kind of genuine work, when there is the opportunity to work, the privilege to work, then the requirement, the qualification to work in any class to make money, whether small or huge amount, and the person or the people refuse to work. This is what Apostle Paul is condemning. It is not about when somebody is sick and is unable to walk. No, this is apart. That is, the person may be handicapped at a particular moment. But we are talking about when the person is fit to walk, but decide not, make it as a choice. That is the person's unwillingness to walk. It says such a person or such a people should also be willing not to eat. No food for lazy fellows. Verse 11. Indeed, we hear that some among you are leading an undisciplined and inappropriate life, doing no work at all, but acting like busybodies, meddling in other people's business. Some people, when they are supposed to be working and be making money, they will refuse to work. They decided to be gossips, to engage into gossip, meddling in other people's matters, causing confusion, causing quarrel among the church members. Then going further, verse 12, it says, now such people will command and exhort in the name and exhort in the Lord Jesus Christ to settle down and work quickly and earn their own food and other necessities, supporting themselves instead of depending on the hospitality of others. Such fellows are now being ordered by Paul and the rest of the apostles. Paul, speaking on the apostolic team, he says such fellows who have the opportunity to work but decide not to work, they should no longer continue to be liabilities. They should end their life of dependency upon the members. Apostle Paul, while speaking, said he and his apostolic team had set the example. One of the reasons they set the example is so that people will not begin to think or to say that why do they demand financial assistance from the members and they refuse other members to demand financial assistance. That is how people reason logically. But they will forget that these are the ministers who have abandoned their own work to engage into the ministerial work of building the people God's way. And they will forget also that it is the duty of the church to be caring for such ministers. But Apostle Paul said, for the sake of those who may want to use it as a reason to encourage themselves in laziness and idleness, they refused to be collecting their honorarium from the church. So Apostle Paul is exhorting that we should not live the life of liability. Neither the pastors, neither the prophets, neither the evangelists should be living the life of liabilities. The life of liabilities is the life of dependency to sustaining self. The life of liability is when the pastors, the evangelists, the prophets, the teachers, all of the ministers begin to anything they want to clothe themselves, they will depend on the members or they will depend on others. They want to build a house, they want to depend on others. They want to pay their children's school fees, they want to depend on others. They want to buy a car or cars, they want to depend on others. Everything for their personal comfort. I'm not talking about the funding of the ministerial project. I'm trying to differentiate between the ministerial project and the personal comfort. So these two things are different. Just for an example, as an evangelist I am, it is not encouraging that I should not be working while I will be depending on my church members to feed me, to pay my house rent, to buy my clothing, also to train my family or to fund my family. If I want to buy a car, I will depend on the church member. No, this is what Apostle Paul is condemning. The church should be run in a system whereby even the ministers, as much as we have the privilege, we should be working. We should be having our livelihoods. Then in the church may decide to make a particular minister or two of them stationary ministers, those who will be working for the church day and night, and the church will be taking care of them. Then it should be based on the church decisions and the church capability. It should not be something that will be coerced on the members. So first of all, when we are engaging into this ministerial work, a Christian ministerial work, it is important we prepare ourselves to know how we'll be making our own money for taking care of ourselves. And this gives us the leverage to stand firm, to be speaking the truth, to be preaching the proper gospel, so that we will not fear anybody who will not like the truth, and we may depend on the person to feed. So all these things are some of the things that make lots of ministers to compromise, but it is not supposed to be like that. The life of dependency is destroying the African human structure. Many people have the entitlement mentality. Entitlement mentality is the foundation of life of dependency. Some people have the opportunity to work, but they choose to be lazy. I'm talking outside of the church now, generally, all over the world. Some people have the opportunity to be working, but they decide to be lazy. They decide to be idle, and they will be strategizing on how to feed themselves from the food belonging to others, how to share from the food of others. They just decide, it is a decision. To some people, it is their right, that entitlement mentality, to depend on others. These are the people who will not do anything significant for themselves. They will be blaming others for their suffering, for their failure. And these kind of people are the people who always begrudge those who refuse to allow them to be draining them in times of life of dependency. Some People who live life of dependency also become so jealous and so envious when they see the prosperous people who refuse to permit them into their life, into their territory, for them to be taken from them. Life of dependency make people never to plan for their future. They never plan for their retirement. They never plan for their glorious end. Life of dependency. They choose to be liabilities. But I am saying to you, refuse to be a liability. Being a liability reduces your prestige. It reduces your dignity. It makes you to forget. It makes you to forget your potential. And it makes you never to develop your potential. It makes you not to become who you are supposed to be. All of us are created to become something significant. It is because I refuse to be a liability. Being born poor is not a reason to be a liability. Many of us are born poor. So being a liability is a choice. It is not as a result of being born from a poor family. Being a liability is not about demanding that people should help you to learn a skill. That is not an act of being a liability. It is an act of working. It means you have the willingness to work, but maybe you do not have the money to register yourself or to buy tools or to be feeding and be transporting yourself for the work. If you demand help in this category, it is righteousness. It is not being liability. And those with good heart will love to help you. There are people who can bring 500,000 naira, let me use naira for example, 1 million naira to help someone who wants to learn something and begin to work and make money, than to give the person free 200,000 naira for consumption. Why I'm saying this is, there are people like that. They will beg me, a case example, 100,000 naira I will give and they will consume. After 2 months they will come again. It is difficult for me and I will not continue to give. But when the person is ready to learn something, even if it costs 500 euro and I will be able to afford it, I will just give it to that person. Because the person will learn that something, maybe after 6 months, after 1 year, the person will begin to make his own money and stop disturbing me to always give to him or to give to her. Black tax is a big threat to Africans in diaspora. So the video is getting so long. I will round up now. So that next time I will continue maybe with a different topic. So stop being a liability. This is understanding and executing righteousness from points of reality. This is my master textbook. Inside of this book, you will see a chapter with the topic of diligence. Diligence. A chapter that will teach you how to be industrious. Even if you don't know how, the chapter will teach you on how to be industrious. So it is very, very important. It is my wish that every family should have a minimum of 1 copy of this book from all around the world, both the Christians and non-Christians. It is very, very important. The book is worth it. You read it, you have the knowledge inside of it, and it is very, very helpful, very, very beneficial. You will gain over 1,000 times compared to the money you will spend to buy this book. Like this book, like other of my book, but this is my master textbook. Remember, I am your serviceable servant, Evangelist Nima Kalon. I am an evangelical author. I am a custodian of Christianity, and I am a human capital developer. I help people become. I develop people to become. So that is what I do. Consult me if you want to have a dealing with me in any way about human development, about training for authorship, writing, learning about that is custodian, as a custodian of Christianity. Anything that has to do relating to Christianity, you want to know, you want me to give you special lecture, you want to seek some instruction from me, I am here for you. I am well trained. I say to you, bye now until I come to your way once again later.